So skip.
Yes.
Good evening. Welcome to Littleton School Committee meeting tonight, Thursday, September 25th. I would like to start off by Pledge of Allegiance. Michael, would you lead us to the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Mike. Okay. So next up on the agenda is the consent agenda, where we will I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the September 11th meeting, oath to pay bills and payroll.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda as read.
Motion's been made by Mr. Baker.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pratt. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Yes.
All right. Next up, I'll open the floor up to any interested citizens, anybody that would like to speak on any subject matter pertaining to the schools. If you do wish to speak, come to the microphone, introduce yourself, your address. Okay. So we have recognition is next on the agenda, and at this point in time, we typically have the student representative who, Mr. Morse, is going to be transitioning.
Right.
And Mr. Vallon is going to be taking over. Welcome, Ryan Vallon, junior from the high school. And kind of thrown into this at the 11th hour here, so there is a chance that Bobby may show up, and if Bobby does, he can give us an update. And, any input you have, when we solicit input from the board members, please speak up. Kind of ahead of schedule, which is what we like.
That's excellent.
These guys have me at a clock.
Other recognition, Park and Rec Department. Throughout the summer, I had the pleasure of watching the Park and Rec Department with all of their events for the children in our community. And I have to tell you, it's just so impressive. Kent, Tehadawon and all the other activities. A couple of times where I wanted to hop the bus with the kids in the morning coming into the office. They're always doing something, going somewhere. And in my travels, I think this is the most robust program I've ever witnessed. So I'd just like to give accolades to the Park and Rec Department for being creative and offering great programs for children in our community.
Excellent. Now, that's Park and Rec and Community Education, so
Of course, yes.
We do look to collaborate with them wherever possible, and thank you for recognizing them, because they do a great deal, and they're a great bunch of people to work with as well. All right. Should we move right on to the high school presentation?
Sure. We actually have 3 presentations this evening. I'm going to sneak one in. And we have our some of our grade 1 staff here this evening, Nancy Maurice. And we also have Julie Lord, who's our technology expert at the school, so to speak. And they put together a video for grade 1 orientation that I'd like to show this evening, and I'd like to give them an opportunity to talk about it. It's very well done, and it just shows one more area of technology that we're moving forward in. And the grade 1s took a course this summer, and it was focusing on video production. So with that, our first presentation this evening is Dr. Hogan. And if you look over in the corner there, you see some cooking going on, so to speak, with the 3D printer. So Dr. Hogan, I'll turn it over to you at this time.
Sorry. I think I'll let the students speak first, and maybe you might want to actually tell them what they're doing.
Very hot, though, don't touch it.
Actually getting the microphone.
Go ahead. No, that's okay.
All right, so this is our newest 3D printer. It's a Mendel Max Replicator 2. It's by MakerBot, and it uses a special kind of filament that allows it to print plastic into any shape that we, the students, can design. we design things using a software called SolidWorks, which is a software used out in the real world by real designers. One of the options you can take here at Littleton High School is to actually go through a book on SolidWorks, and you can go through all the tutorials. And don't be afraid. Only the first half is tutorials. The second half is preparing you for something called the SolidWorks certification exam. And this is an exam that we students hope to take that will get us certified in SolidWorks, which will give us edge over even some adults in the real world. It basically proves to companies that we know SolidWorks and that we're ready to design anything they want us to design.
So basically what it's doing right now is printing some low polygon quick print bunnies, which we'll hand out after it's done. So it's really a lot of fun to work with, and due to how well we can use SolidWorks, it's really an easy to use program once we get into it. We were having problems viewing it from home in case we had to leave for any reason. So we got a webcam, but that wouldn't fit on properly. So it took me 10 minutes, and I just designed a webcam mount that would mount it, and we could view it. And it's, as I said, very easy to learn once you get into it. A lot of the students at the school have designed lots of different things. For example, here's the top of an Eiffel Tower replica, and it was designed by one of the students, Katie Bradford, her sister, and collectively that took, I think, about 24 hours. So impressive work. And then here we have several different printable things. If you'd like, you can look at them. It's how it fills everything. Prints in hexagons for structural support. And then it basically lays down melted plastic layer upon layer and then builds up the full form. And then this is a raft which it prints on to help stability and prevent warping. And then we can print educational items like this, which we use as a Pythagorean theorem proof, which is his thing. So here you go. I want to explain it.
So when I was a freshman, I had an awesome math teacher, and she gave us a project every single term. And one of my favorite projects that we did was the Pythagorean theorem project, in which students were challenged to demonstrate the Pythagorean theorem using like paper cutouts from home or wood or something. But I had learned about the 3D printer, and we had actually just gotten one. And so I designed a 3D printed version of the Pythagorean theorem that uses 25 cubes and a 3, 4, 5 triangle, and you can physically move the cubes. And this is great because it connects science to math, and it also demonstrates math in a physical manner that students can touch and feel. On top of this, we can also design things for the tutorial that will go on top of our robot that we're hopefully going to build. And this robot will be able to do, well, I don't know what, but I've built the arm so far, so I know it's going to be able to do something with a hydraulic system. Do you want to talk about the trebuchets?
Yeah, I'll actually have a little bit to add on about the 3D printer, just as accessibility to students. All of the computers that Dr. Hogan has in his room are equipped with the SolidWorks program. And in the engineering class and during the clubs, we're able to use it and design whatever we want. A lot of people are going through the tutorials right now to go through the certification program, like Brian was mentioning before. And another option that students have that aren't necessarily inclined to use the computers and use SolidWorks as much, they have the option to build a trebuchet, which students have broken off into groups and they've been working on these. I didn't personally build it, so I can't explain that much about it. But a lot of the students that are more hands-on with their learning, they've really enjoyed being able to make them. They actually went through it very quickly. A lot of them have already finished.
So to add on to what Brian was saying on this, as you can see, this is the longest side, and as you probably all know, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So this would be c squared, and it is quite literally the side c as a square. And you can take these and rearrange them. So that's b squared, which comes out to equal, or comes out to add with a squared to equal c squared. And it's a very literal interpretation and way to visualize what's happening. And it really helps with a lot of kids, actually.
One of the coolest things about our newer MakerBot is that it can print things with movable parts. So this robot was printed in one piece, yet it has a bunch of different joints, the head can swivel, and everything can move, which I think is pretty cool, because the old 3D printer, you could barely get things to print in general, let alone print and move.
We've printed a lot of these in the past few days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's just so interesting that you can print it all in one part, and it's so many different parts.
So another thing is, in the physics room, we have, for engineering and engineering club, we have acquired an engine from an old muscle car, which we plan on disassembling, taking stock of, and basically converting all of the parts into digital drawings in SolidWorks. And then if we manage to get that done, we'll be able to print a working model on the 3D printer as parts, and then assemble it separately. And it can be basically as large as we want it. And that's a really fun project to get working on. And then another project that the engineering classes are working on is a manila folder bridge building project, which they cut parts of manila folders and design it into a bridge, which will then hold a huge amount of weight that you really just would not expect from manila folders. So that's a lot of fun for people to learn. Teaches a lot of structural and critical thinking. So yeah.
You guys have anything else to add? Dr. Hogan, would you like to add anything?
Yes, I would. I would actually like to give a presentation to sort of summarize this. But as you can see, I've been busy doing all sorts of things, and so I'm just at the last minute got it ready here. But you guys did a great job. You covered almost everything I wanted to cover. So I'm just reordering things based on how much time we have.
Oh, yes, I didn't bring my phone with me.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Can I get this?
Take double pictures.
Okay, connect to the board?
Yeah.
Come right up, Steve. Can Dr. Hogan get that connected to the board?
You have a gap.
Okay. So while he's getting set up, the students that are in the class is Brian O'Neill, who was a junior, Kelly Bradford, and Michael Albatelli, who are both seniors. And thank you guys very much for coming out. You guys have been here before and done presentations. Really appreciate you guys taking your time, coming out, sharing with us so we can see that you guys are getting some practical experience, learning other than from a board or from a textbook. And this is really exciting for us to see technology in use. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
guys
you.
for all being interested.
Okay. I'll just get myself out of the way so you can see. Can you read that? Yeah?
Alex read it for me.
Okay. I'm going to, since they took up a lot of time actually talking about a lot of very interesting stuff, I was very impressed. It's really nice when a teacher sort of can sit down and they just go off and do their thing, right? is what I try to encourage in my classroom is students being independent thinkers, independent learners. And I thought I should actually, first of all, tell you a little bit about my alumni connections, because I get a lot of feedback from Littleton High School alumni. It's my 6th year with the school system now, and I'm starting to see the fruits of what I was doing and helping those kids do now paying off. For example, Vera Kirilov was Littleton High School class of 2012. She's a business major at the Wharton School, got directly into the Wharton School, and she is doing a minor in mechanical engineering. That's something I encouraged her to do because most CEOs actually have engineering backgrounds. And I pointed this out to her, and so she actually loves it. She's written a number of letters to me, and I'll be glad to share those with you another time. But what I've done is show you one of the things that she specifically talked about, what a big advantage she had as a student going to University of Pennsylvania, having done SolidWorks already. Right? She was able to get in there and basically lead her class in what was going on. And that's the sort of preparation for college I like to see my students having. This is Cameron Jones, who you all know, Littleton High School 2013. I wanted to speak towards the benefits of the Littleton Engineering Program, how it helped me prepare me for college, even as a computer science student. So he's already been in college for a year now. He's starting his sophomore year. He's finding that the training that he got in engineering at Littleton High School really gave him a head start compared to his peers from other school systems. He's at WPI, along with the next person. Oh, no, this person actually is back from 2012, Tyler McCormick. You may have heard about Tyler. I did ask him to be here tonight to speak to it himself, but he's, if you like, the other end of the spectrum, and I expect part of the spectrum we shouldn't forget, and that is that not all students want to go to a four-year college. They're really not inclined to do that. And Tyler's one of these people who was going to drop out by his own admission, and found that a passion for doing engineering designs at Littleton High School turned his life around and ended up graduating. And now he's working, as you can see, for a large solar engineering firm in Littleton, doing all their designs for solar power facilities. And in fact, he was doing a major submittal, and that's the reason he couldn't be with us. I said, business comes first. So, I mean, in all of these cases, having hands-on experience is very, very important. And, I will send you these letters and either emails or Facebook messages that I've had from my alumni. I've actually started a Facebook page specifically so I can reconnect with my alumni. I did that over the summer. They're all really interested in seeing what they look like as juniors. We've also been doing a lot of community outreach, some of it by the Bradfords. They got a large LEF grant, $4,000. I put in another $1,000, and we ended up with 11 trebuchet design kits, the robot you've seen today, and a number of other materials which are now being actively used in both the engineering club and in the engineering courses. Donors Choose was brought to me by Mike Albertelli. He found this and he sent it to me and he said, Dr. Hogan, you need to do something about this. And I felt really guilty. He basically guilted me into it. So I spent my weekend writing up a presentation because he wanted a new MakerBot, right? And I was feeling a little tapped out by this time. And so I looked at it, and Donors Choose was offering a dollar for dollar match up to $100. And if I got 50 people to donate $20 or more to my classroom, I'd get another $3,000. So I had Littleton residents, I think, put in $1,000. My friends and family put in $500, and we ended up with $6,000. Okay, in the space of a week. And with that, we purchased physics equipment. You can see that here. Some very good rotational motion experiment equipment that we never had before, and some electrical equipment that, to be honest, I mean, when I came to the school, the physics equipment was pretty much 30 to 40 years old, pretty much had it. And we're starting to get to the point now where we've actually got a reasonable number of sets of equipment, except that our enrollment has gone up, which is now causing us another problem, right? That is, we don't have enough of it again. And so that's what Donors Choose did for us. Here's Mr. Paul Biagioni, LHS 1983. He runs a landscaping company in town, and he also, in the winter time, rebuilds cars and also builds hot rods and things like that. And we're going to have probably a group of the kids go over to his shop for a tour. There are different kids in my engineering class. I try to differentiate what they do depending on what they're good at and what their interest is. So the 4 guys shown in this picture want to disassemble the engine, but they've got to do it in such a way that when they give the parts to all the other kids to then model in SolidWorks, we know how it all goes together, and we also have to rebuild it. So their job is going to be quite detail oriented as well, but the other kids are going to put hopefully the whole thing together, and at the end of the year what I'm hoping we'll have is a virtual image of this machine actually operating in SolidWorks. We may even be able to make a miniature of it on the 3D printer, which would be very cool. This is what we've been doing this year. I drive by the site office of SBS New England every day, and so one morning I just dropped in and asked to speak to the head engineer, who happened to be the only person in the trailer at the time, and asked him, you know, would he give us a field trip or come and talk to us? And he said he'd do both. So he came and talked to all of our engineering classes one Monday afternoon for 2 hours, because I effectively have 3 sections of engineering. I have 5 students doing what's called independent study. That means that they can look after themselves while they follow through the SolidWorks tutorial, and then I have 2 other sections. And he talked to them for 2 hours about the whole process of this project, what was involved in civil engineering, and what was really good when we went on the field trip was we found that his primary assistant is actually a woman.
Now this is at Taylor Street.
This is Taylor Street, and the other one here, this one is over Route 2 on 495.
Right.
So and what we were watching that day was them both pouring the central column for the new bridge and destroying the old ones. So the kids were there for like 15 minutes, sort of transfixed, right? It was really a very cool experience for them. I spent a day shadowing the linesmen at Littleton Electric Light in August because I heard that they were looking for linesmen. It's a very good, well-paying career, and there are students in our system who could benefit from a career like that. So I wanted to find out what it was. Scott Edwards, the new general manager, agreed to let me go out shadow some linesmen, and later in the year we'll actually go visit them and talk about those sorts of careers with the kids that might be inclined that way. I've also reached out to Littleton Lumber. They have a millwork facility called Forrester Millwork. We're going to run a design contest for the students once they've learned the basics of SolidWorks. They'll be designing me new benches for my classroom that contain all the equipment because I'm running out of space and I need places to store everything. You should come by someday and see how little space I have. Actually, everyone else thinks I have more space than everyone else, right? But actually,
All perception.
it's all a matter of your point of view, right? I don't have any room for all of my stuff. But if you don't have stuff, you don't have a fun environment, right? I mean, that's what makes it a fun environment, is there's stuff to put your hands on and stuff to do things with. Right, Ryan?
Right.
I got my supporters really well trained. I'm not going to bore you with all of the normal stuff. I've been doing DDMs for the past 5 years. It's just something I did because that's what engineers do. You always benchmark yourself and see what things have been doing. The DDM I use is actually you know what DDMs are, right? Okay. The DDM I use is actually been around for about 20 years in the physics education research community. So it's very well tested, and typically students in a first year college physics course of the type that I give in our juniors typically see a 20% gain in their pre versus post instruction. Last year I managed to get my kids up to a 54% gain on this same DDM instrument. So that would explain why people like Ethan Dauphiné, I think, sat on this board, right?
He was a student representative, yes.
Ethan told me his first year at UMass Amherst as a business sports major, he was the physics tutor on his dorm room floor. So I'm sort of excited that I can get these stories back from kids. There's quite a few of them. I will tell you what my challenges are, though. Our enrollment has gone from about 50 to about 100 in the 5 years I've been here, and it is an elective. It's not a requirement. So my challenges are that increased class sizes are making it difficult to give students the attention they deserve in these very hands-on courses. We had 26 students, which exceeds the number that the Department of Education feels is safe for a lab science at the beginning of this year. Fortunately, a few kids come along and see how much work there is and decide to drop. So we're under the 24 limit right now. But space for the students and the equipment is at a premium. And the other thing is that the computers that I personally purchased 3.5 years ago, and which have been used every single mod of every single school day for the past 3.5 years, not surprisingly, are starting to fall apart. So I need to find a way to get a new classroom set of computers for my room for next year. Thank you.
You guys print off an extra Dr. Hogan? Can they print off an extra Dr. Hogan back there?
Call another Dr. Hogan.
Get to the biomedical engineering and...
Are there any questions before Dr. Hogan sits down?
Any questions?
Not a question, more of a comment. I really appreciate the presentation of the feedback that you're getting from the students and how what you've done ties into where they're going. You know, we often get this weird question about what's our return on investment, and it's always difficult to quantify in an education environment. And it doesn't have a dollar number. It's the impact we're having on the students, and I think that's really the piece that I'm looking for.
Well, one of the things I'm going to
these
try...
types of stories, I think, help us as we try to figure out how we explain to people why we're making these investments, because the investments are paying off.
Right. One of the things I'm going to try to do now that I have a Facebook presence, I think I have nearly 200 alumni who sort of friended me, my sort of LHS Physics alumni page, and I want to sort of make some surveys of what impact LHS had on them and things like that to get the sort of data that you're looking for.
Yeah, if you get that, definitely share it with us.
Encourage them to forward their letters to the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee also.
All paid, Mr. Baker.
All right. Well, I mean, what I can do, at least 2 of the letters were addressed to the school committee, so I'll forward those to you.
That's great.
And I will also forward to you the comments I've had on email and Facebook messaging chats that I've had with the other people I mentioned. Okay?
Thank you. Just real quickly, Dr. Hogan, when you do that kind of fundraising, I know that you have a reach. If there's, not that I want to solicit funds from up here, but personally, I didn't know about the donations.
I sort of feel a little uncomfortable about trying to
Let me say this, please ask me.
Okay.
I don't want to speak for the whole board, but, you know, if there's a way each of us have our own reach as well.
I actually have another sort of little funding project for about $100 grand going on at the moment.
Yeah, ask Darryl for that.
I have
20 bucks, 50 bucks, I'm in.
I do have to say,
I got a lottery ticket.
I have commitments of $13,000 so far. 10,000 from one person, 3 from another.
That's great.
That's
Okay.
one. Do you have a question?
I just want to say that I just want to second what everyone else has said. I think it's so incredible that you were able to give this presentation. You know, I think that these students in the back and probably everyone else in your group, they're going to remember probably more what they're doing with you than almost anything they're going to learn in any of the classrooms. I know I was the same way. My friends and I, we still talk about, like, I used to make movies and TV shows in one of my classes. I've never made a movie or a TV show since then, but that was huge for me, like finding out what I wanted to do. And we still talk about, I feel like I could probably try and make a movie. It wouldn't be very good, but I could. I learned how to do that software, and it was something I wouldn't have had the experience to do if there wasn't a teacher there who actually wanted to teach people that. And I'm impressed because I know when I was leaving the high school, that was sort of right in the throes of the economic crisis, and so we saw a lot of the faculty members who people really connected with weren't there anymore when I left, and that made me kind of sad to think that people weren't having those same experiences. So it sounds like some of them are at least having good experiences with it, so that's great.
And I've seen 3D printers before, many in Dr. Hogan's classroom and some elsewhere, but just standing right here, it's like seeing fire for the first time. It's really something. And it's not only is it an educational benefit, and it helps people who are visual or hands-on learners, not just in physics or engineering, but in math and even a bit of computer science. It's also cool. It's really neat, and it's a benefit for the students. It's a benefit for us, I think, as school committee members to see this. And it's just a great program that we've got going on. Keep it up.
Thanks again.
Excellent.
Thanks, guys.
So
I expect to get a bunny before the night's over.
Oh, I thought I was on that list.
1, 2.
I was going to give it to you. Spoiler alert.
You're supposed to get a buck at back to school night to get a buck.
There you go. So we're going to go all the way from high school back down to grade 1, and we always talk about the continuum of education within our district. And Julie Lord and Nancy Maurice, as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, had an opportunity to do some professional development this summer, and rather than me continue talking about it, I'm going to ask both of them to tell us a bit about the process that was involved in making the video.
Sure.
Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Julie Lord. I'm the tech specialist at Shaker Lane. This video was actually created by the first grade teachers. I just wanted to share it with Mr. Clenchy because I thought it was such an awesome example of using technology in a productive, creative, super informative way. So I got a lot out of it. As a coworker, I thought it was awesome. As a parent, I would have been totally impressed. So that's why I felt the need to share it. But it was actually first grade team creation. Nancy can tell a little bit about it.
Sure. I teach first grade at Shaker Lane, and at our opening meeting this year, the word that we took away from that meeting was innovative. And one of the big changes at Shaker Lane this year for first grade was going from an open house format where the kiddos would come with their families to more of a curriculum night. And so we sat down to talk about what we wanted to do. And we wanted to get away from everybody taking a turn and speaking about one subject because we wanted to look into being a little bit more innovative. So thinking innovation, we turned to technology. But we wanted to be really careful about the technology we use because we want to showcase technology that our first graders are going to use. So all the pieces that you see in the movie tonight, students have used that technology. They've made telegamis. They've made iMovie trailers. So it was really a collaborative effort in terms of, we also took a class on Google and being efficient. So we wanted to be really efficient in how we did this, and we, utilizing Google in our personal and professional lives, allows us to teach the students how to use a lot of the Google Drive and applications. So it was a fun project. We also wanted to showcase the personalities of the first grade teachers, so you'll get a little kick out of a few things that happened, but it went over very well. Right? So we hope you enjoy.
Ready?
Thank you.
Hello there. I hope you enjoyed the classroom portion of our open house. I'm glad you were able to stay for the presentation on the academic goals of first grade. In a moment, you will see a movie produced by the first grade team focused on the academic journey your child will experience over the course of the year. And of course, our curriculum is aligned with the Massachusetts Common Core state standards. So let's get this movie started. As they say in show business, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Make learning fun. Now let's hear from these experts about the nitty-gritty of the first grade curriculum.
So Mrs. Bullock, I learned this great new math game that teaches sums to 10, so I thought it would be fun to teach the kids how to play.
Oh great, I love math games, Mrs. K. Oh, hi, how are you? Math games are a great way to learn and practice skills every day in our math lessons.
Shaker Lane is using a revised edition of the Everyday Math program. It is aligned with the Common Core standards. Lessons involve whole group, small group, and partner experiences. We use many hands-on manipulatives and materials to teach the concepts. We often bring in art and literature as well. Games are another important part of the program. It is a great way to practice the skills and a way for children to learn cooperation and sharing and other social skills. The EDM program also has an online component and has many games that children can play. At the beginning of each unit, you will receive a newsletter that explains upcoming skills and even has some suggested activities that you can try at home. In January, we will begin Fact Time. Children will work daily on their math fact fluency through various classroom activities. At that time, we will ask you to practice them at home with your child as well.
Oh, you're back. I'm just setting up my science table, but you know what I'm really excited about is getting ready for our balance and motion unit, which is coming up next.
First grade science is hands-on, innovating, and fun. Our science topics are FOSS balance and motion, FOSS air and weather, organisms, plants, and the 5 senses. Each unit engages student inquiry. Students construct an understanding of science concepts through their own investigations and analyses, using hands-on materials, student readings, and interactive technology. Student lessons are based on skills appropriate to their age level.
Kenny?
Hi, Mrs. Maurice.
How are you?
Good.
Picking up some new books?
Yes, getting ready for my reading groups.
Oh, awesome. We're so lucky to have such a great library.
We are very lucky to have such a great selection here.
I think we can really meet the needs of all the students. Can't wait to get those groups started.
Definitely.
All right, see you soon.
Okay, bye.
Each day we begin with reading. Students are involved in whole group, small group, and literacy centers. During centers, students will work at their instructional level. In addition, we use anthologies, leveled readers, and big books, as well as authentic literature. Spelling, sight words, phonics, and grammar are also addressed daily. We have a weekly theme that helps engage students in the various activities. Students are monitored closely for skill acquisition. Regular ed intervention is available through RTI for all students. We rely on home support to practice spelling, sight words, and nightly reading.
Sal, here are the extra pencils you asked for.
Thank you so much. My kids have been writing up a storm. Journals, writing prompts, handwriting, you name it.
Keep them writing.
I will.
Writing is truly a journey in first grade. Students come into first grade with ear spelling as their main strategy in writing. As the year progresses, they become familiar with sound letter correspondence and build phonics skills, and spell sight words. They make a transition from using uppercase letters to using mainly lowercase letters and knowing when to capitalize. By the end of the year, students will be writing several sentences with a conclusion. Students achieve this by a variety of daily activities, such as sentence prompts, journals, and writer's workshop. Amazing!
Mrs. Sawasik, what are you doing? Are you admiring yourself in the mirror? Well, I do enjoy our unit on American symbols. The kids love it. They get so excited, don't they? Yeah, they do. Maybe some families will take them on some field trips. Good idea.
Embedded in our social studies program are the common core principles for speaking, listening, and reading. Our units include maps, our community, American symbols, and goods and services. Throughout the year, we use a variety of partnerships, groups, and individual activities that really focus on communicating about social studies.
So just,
Well, I hope you enjoyed the presentation. We now have time for questions or comments, and thank you so much for coming out tonight.
So,
Hello there. I hope
Did you fast forward to the Nancy part again?
is this a test? No, just, again, it shows you very vividly what happens in grade 1 through a 7-minute video. It gives you a great idea of curriculum and interaction of student skills and interconnectivity of curriculi. And it also was great to have 2 presentations tonight because the successes of each school are interdependent on the successes of the other schools. So we truly do have a K through 12 continuum in terms of education. The teachers that are with us tonight, these things just don't happen in a vacuum. It takes a desire and a will to want to become better and take risks and try new things. And this is a philosophy that we continue to promote within our district. Teachers, when you think of what they do every day, most teachers have 6 classes a day, and they have 6 preps, especially in elementary schools. And then they have the preparation of the material, the preparation of the instructional strategies, the marking of the assessments, and they still find time to take a look at new resources. And I really want to commend our staff on that because that takes a lot of extra time and energy. Just another indication of how fortunate we are to have dedicated staff within our district. Anybody have any questions for Nancy or Julie?
Board other comments? Ryan, Bob? Comments?
Other than thank you for the energy you put in back of your, not only the video here, but the preparation for the students. I really appreciate that.
I convey that to the team.
All right, thank you.
Mike?
Kelly's moving you along.
I'm in the middle seat, right?
Trying to help you out.
Now there's nothing more I can say than thank you. Thanks for the extra effort you put in.
That was pretty incredible. We see a lot of videos throughout the year, and they're always sort of a great eye into the classroom. Getting the animation, though, that's the step up. So I just hope they don't start animating us.
Jib jab.
Yeah.
Pick an avatar, Alex.
I echo what everybody said. One of the things in watching this, in knowing Nancy and Julie, and all of our staff really, but you guys have such a passion, and you're working with these kiddos, as you call them, Nancy. I mean, you've got families of your own, you've got a lot invested, you've got a mastery of the material that you have to teach our kids, yet you keep making it new and exciting and using technology, and that's something you guys are embracing, and you're taking this on your own, the Google stuff, and I actually think I'm gonna have you come over to the house and teach us all how to use the Google Calendar and all that kind of stuff, Nancy. Both of you, it just, the passion, I guess, is the one word that I keep going back to. You guys, it exudes out of you, and we really appreciate it. I know I really do. I think I can speak for all of us. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right.
Next up.
All right, you can go now.
Well, thank you. We go from what's happening in our schools to another very important aspect of our school district, and that is energy efficiency. We have our schools involved in green school programs, and everybody knows Dave Riley. He's been with us for a number of years and has helped us look at energy efficiency with all of our utilities, etc. And he's going to share some of the things that we've done as a school district over the years and take a glimpse into the future as well. So welcome, Dave.
Great, thank you. Thanks. We're in our 7th year of our energy program, with our base year being in 2008. And then we were considering, there was some talk about changing our base year to reflect on how we've been doing closer from year to year. And after talking with Synergistic, which is the company that we contracted with, they didn't recommend changing our base year from 2008 for several reasons. The first one is they gave us a 10-year guarantee of $1.9 million savings over 10 years if we followed their protocols. And that guarantee, if we followed their protocols and we didn't make that guarantee, they would pay the difference. So it's important that we keep track of all of the energy and uses that we've been doing since the start of our program. The Energy Cap software that we use helps us predict uses throughout the year. For example, a couple of years ago, when I was entering in the water bills, if a bill is significantly higher or lower than the year before, or 2 years or even 3 years before that, a warning will pop up. A warning popped up that it was significantly higher than a couple of years ago, and come to find out, we had a water leak in the fields out behind the high school, and this was able, we were able to pick up on that, and we were able to get that leak fixed that was on the ground. Our software is able to look at our year-to-year basis on our use of, for our natural gas usage, and this does not take into consideration weather or degree days. So our actual therms that were actually used in 2008 were 161 therms at a cost of $219,000. Significantly going down from 2009 to 2010, and went up a little bit in 2011. Even at the 123,000, that's still $47,000, almost $47,000 cheaper than our original base year. And you can see the costs are reflected off on the right. Our electric usage also significantly has been lowered, starting off at 391,000 kilowatts at a cost of $356,000 in 2008, down to $177,461 at a cost of $198,000 in 2013. There was a spike in 2012, and the last 3 summers we've had air conditioning on full at Russell Street School for the school programs. So that is reflected in that rise in the therms. Obviously, temperature plays a huge factor in our usage on our electricity and as well as the gas. even though we went up in 2012, if you look at our cost off to the right, all of our costs have gone down every single year, even though our use went up in 2012. One of the reasons that our cost was able to go down was the fact that the electric company very nicely installed smart meters in all our schools. And the smart meters take an electrical reading every 15 minutes. And instead of getting one bill for each separate school, the electric company considers all 4 buildings as one entity, thus reducing our load by $1,000 a month. So we're saving $1,000 a month with the electric meters being used and getting the cost for all 4 schools at once. I can then log on monthly to get a breakdown of the use of each individual schools. Our overall cost savings or cost avoidance is based on what we would have spent without an energy program minus what we did spend, which today is $1,262,455, which is a 34.61% decrease in what we were originally using. And the 34.61% decrease is important because we're maintaining that that percent of savings, even though there's some other uses that I'll go over in a second. Less than our expenses, which is the fee that we contracted from Synergistic, my salary, training, and software, which was $416,000 to date, for a net savings of $846,455.
And you really, to help put this in perspective, if you went back to 2008 and looked within our schools at that time, there would be far less technology. There would be far less usage. From 2008 to 2014, our schools, in terms of the hours that they're used, has increased tremendously. But despite that, with our energy savings programs, we've been able to decrease costs significantly. So if we had done nothing, I believe that it would be far more than the 1.62 million.
Significantly well is our environmental impact. Doing what we've been doing, we've been able to reduce our carbon footprint by 5,200 metric tons of CO2, which is equivalent of planting 133,588 trees and growing them for 10 years, or taking 1,085 cars off the road for 1 year. The superintendent was mentioning our increases in use. Our auditoriums, cafes, and gymnasiums have increased incredibly. Mike Denault was talking to me. I was talking to Mike Denault, the theater manager, and since I started, the use of the theater and the cafeteria has tripled, and he said probably 4 times more than when we started in 2008. Some of the things that we're doing, we've added electric hand dryers as an experiment in the middle school. And even though it affects my statistics, we are using more electricity because of that. There's almost a 75% savings using those compared to paper towels and what we're paying for paper towels. We've also redone and upgraded our wireless internet system in all the schools with all new equipment for that. When I started, the middle school was the only school that had LCD projectors in the classrooms. Now, all of the schools have LCD projectors in most of the classrooms. Increased use of computer labs and VAC computer labs. We've added large screens, TVs, and we've also added installation of new air conditioning at Shaker Lane and Russell Street. We've been able to do this because we've been working as a team and talking with one another. The teachers are always asked to shut down their classrooms at the end of the day. We're looking at and analyzing what we're using on a regular basis with our software. Audits, day, nights, and weekends are very important. A couple examples. Last winter, I went in on a Sunday night. It was around 11 o'clock on a Sunday night, and the middle school gym was 82 degrees. I logged on to the EMS system, and the EMS system said the heat was off. Obviously, it wasn't. So Monday morning, I got in touch with Fernando at the high school, who is in charge of the energy management systems. He logged on and said, no, it was off. But looking into the programming, there was a glitch in the programming that was turning it on about 9 o'clock every Sunday. So if I hadn't gone in on that Sunday, it would have gone on for I don't know how long. Another example was after winter vacation, it was an extra cold winter vacation last year, the high school teacher's room at 10:30 in the morning was 82 degrees. So I went over the thermometer, and the thermometer said 66 degrees. So I said, well, the thermometer's going to be messed up. So I went downstairs, I logged on. The EMS system said the room temperature was 66 degrees. And it wasn't, it was 82. So I asked the custodians and Fernando, I said, what's going on? Oh, there's nothing wrong with the thermostat. It'll warm up after a few days. So I'm thinking, it'll warm up after a few days. Okay, so I took the thermostat off the wall, put my thermometer in the wall, and there was a cold draft coming up at 65 degrees up the wall. So I took some insulation, put some duct tape over it, put the sensor back on, put the thermostat back on, and within an hour, the room stabilized itself. So what was happening was it'd take 3 or 4 days for the heat to get through the wall and warm up that space in the wall. So the audits are catching a lot of things. So continuing monitoring of the EMS system. The EMS systems are excellent. They work really well, but they do get hiccups. If there's a spike in electricity, or if we lose our electricity, like we did with the programming at the gym overheating. We've also been doing some expenditure with some upgrading of equipment. Steve Mark has been working with some vendors installing the new unit ventilators, which are more efficient at the at Shaker Lane. I had National Grid come in for an audit this summer, and we were able to get a $2,100 rebate on those, the last 6 unit ventilators that came in, and we can get another $523 for any additional ones that we install. We've been looking at some initiatives. The superintendent, myself, and Steve Mark sat down with Don Walters from Nexamp, solar electric company out of Boston and Andover. And we actually had them come in 5 years ago. And as much as we'd like to consider putting solar rooftops on our roofs, there were 2 significant things that didn't make it worthwhile for them to come in and do it. One of them is our low rates from our electric department, and the other one is the age of our roofs. They don't like to put solar panels on roofs that are 5 years old or older, because in the contract, we can have them at some point, if we have to replace the roofs, they have to come in and take the panels off and then put them back on with the new roofs on. So it wasn't practical for them to do that. I also had John Moore come in from New England Solar Hot Water. I was thinking maybe some solar hot water on the roofs might help. And putting 30 panels on the roof would only provide 25% of our hot water at a cost of $120,000 with a $50,000 rebate, and a net cost to us of $70,000. And it was only going to save us 1,000 therms a year, over about $673 a year. So the return on investment was just way too far. The system would have failed before we would pay for it. We did have some other ones that seemed a little bit more interesting and something that we should probably think about. The high school had the 20 horsepower circulating motors on the boilers at the high school. The way they're designed right now is when the school calls for hot water, those 20 horsepower motors come on at 100%. Wear and tear on the motors is significant when they're banging on at 100%. And you don't need 100% all the time. At the very most, it's about 82%. So we had RPO Connell, which is our EMS controller, come in and give us an estimate on putting frequency drives in that would regulate the speed of those circulating pumps. And they computed that we could save almost 51,000 kilowatts a year, or $6,800, with a return investment of 22.8 months. So that's something that we might want to think about. Steve, Steve had Mary Beth Vanessa from Refrigeration Technologies come in and she replaces the freezer motors on our walk-in freezers, and the saving was fairly significant, saving 19,000 kilowatts and almost $2,400 a year in electric costs, with a return investment of about 28 months. Another thing that we might want to look into. We've been looking at LED parking lights for a couple of years now. There was problems with fixtures not lasting. The fixtures now are guaranteed, the lights and fixtures are now guaranteed up to about 10 years. We've had Edward Snow from Northeast Electric gave us a bid on all 4 parking lots for $74,000. Our initial cost is almost $14,000 a year. With the LED solution, it would reduce that cost down to about $3,300 a year, with a savings of a little over $10,000, with a return on investment of 2.3 years. So, and they would do all of the schools, or they would do individual schools on a yearly basis. All of the things that I've gone over, I post regularly on my website. I updated the website this summer to make it a little bit more green. All of our energy policies, our classroom shutdown procedures are posted on the website. And I also have other information on how to save energy at home as well as in school. We also get a recognition for the amount of computers that we have in the school system and the amount of CO2 that we have reduced. We are an Energy Star partner, and they gave us a recognition of our low carbon footprint. Lastly, Trish Bonaker, Greg Gillette, and myself went to a seminar up at Mount Wachusett last year on green ribbon schools and what a green ribbon school is. And there are 3 exemplary things to be a green ribbon school. It's basically an application. It's reducing environmental impact and cost, improving our health, wellness, and with the students and staff, nutrition and fitness. And to be part, or to apply to be a green ribbon school, you need to be part of a green team. And Massachusetts happens to have one, which is called the Green Team. And it's a collaboration of what students are doing and sharing, and it's to promote generational responsibility in students. And just this week, Elizabeth Berry, she's the English teacher at the high school?
She's not?
Yes, she
Okay,
did.
great. You're trying to get her.
Yes. Elizabeth Berry volunteered to be the advisor of the Green Team at the high school. Our initial thoughts is for her to establish a Green Team with the students. And we're hoping to get specifically some juniors on that team who would take the initiative to come up with some green initiatives for the high school, and maybe some align from the things that we're doing at the other schools. And as seniors, they would fill out the application to become a green ribbon school. Alyssa Bottomley, who graduated 2 years ago, is taking an energy management program at Mount Wachusett, And we have been in contact with her, and she would like to volunteer her services in helping out with that, with that project. So, with that, I think I'm just about done. If there's any questions?
I have a comment, and I'd like you guys to go before me, but I'm going to figure out how to say it now. Just in line with the green team, I'm probably going to get punched in the head when I get home, but I've got two boys in the high school. One's a junior, one's a senior. They play football, and we spend way too much money on bottled water because they hate the taste of the water at the high school. So I said, do something about it. So they've done some research on filling stations. Reduces the amount of plastic bottles, it's filtered water.
They have them in gyms.
But at the gym, yeah, many gyms have them. Acton Boxball just installed them. And I just put it on your radar, Dick. I think it's great. Put it on your radar, and DeCoste is the last name. Adam and Joey, they just volunteered.
That's perfect.
I'll see you tomorrow and tell you 5 seconds.
But some of the schools have gardens, and part of the Green Ribbon application is if you have a garden, are you raising some vegetables or herbs or something that you can use in the cafeterias and stuff?
I think that's a great idea, Chuck. We had, sorry to interrupt. When I was at UMass Lowell, we did a green team thing there, and they did the hydration stations, and they gave away, a bunch of, the people who gave them the thing gave a bunch of green water bottles that they gave out to students to keep reusing. Mr. Riley, it's good to see you again. I took your math class 13 years ago. I was doing math with you. Yeah. And like we were talking earlier about the technology, I remember learning how to use a Mac with you in the computer lab, and I don't even know what grade it was in. And I use a Mac today, and I wouldn't have known how to do it if it wasn't for taking your class. But I think this is huge. I think this is cool. This is the time of the cycle with the economy and things like that to be like thinking of things like these, where even if the rate of return is 2 years, that'll pay off in our budgets a couple years from now.
No, thank you for the presentation. And quite frankly, I'm one of the ones that's advocating for rebaselining our thing there. And I understand from the program side, why that doesn't make sense from that perspective. But I think in terms of what I'm looking for out of the reports and stuff is what trajectory are we going on so that we can be using that for our decision making. I think this is nice reporting in terms of, it tells the public how much we save, but it doesn't give them insight in terms of what does that mean for next year or 2 or 3 years from now where our projected energy consumptions are. What path are we on for that so that we can give, the impact of the changes are relative to today's costs, not the baseline from 10 years ago. So or 8 years ago. So that's just my concern about as I look at the reporting coming forward there, and sort of just wanted to also explain my perspective on why I was looking for it to be rebaselined, because the reports are useful and informative, but they're not helping me make decisions in terms of where we're going with the budget. And when I get the budget reports, what's the impact of where we're going for allocating like next year's funds for us. So just something to keep in mind as we look at, I guess, maybe still continue to refine our reporting a little bit here. But thank you very much for the presentation, very informative.
I would imagine that we know what the cost of a kilowatt hour over history is, over time has been. So we would probably be able to, based on usage, the cost of kilowatt hours, be able to figure out were we not, if our kilowatt hours were still up, if we're saving this many kilowatt hours, we would have been using this many kilowatt hours times whatever the rate was, we'd be able to figure that out, I would imagine?
Well, we do some of those calculations when we budget. We look at previous consumptions, and again, they're subject to error because there's so many variables.
Sure.
But, when we put numbers in for budgeting, it's based on previous energy consumption.
So just as an example, maybe I can clarify, go to the electrical usage table that you had there, for example. I think in the report you give us, the monthly report, it shows cost without, if we had done nothing, and then savings. But what I'd really rather see would be our consumption projected over time and what our consumption would have been without any measures. Then that gives to me what we've saved in terms of actual energy versus costs that, if we changed light bulb 5 years ago, I don't really care that I'm saving money from a really inefficient fixture from a long time ago. It's really relative to how much, is it going to cost me next year. So I would kind of be seeing, we'd be seeing from this graph here, the consumption going down and then hopefully staying level. And then if we take a new initiative, I'm kind of expecting that would drop again or balance out some other initiatives that we had just increased consumption of. To me, that gives a little bit more tangible impact of what the costs and consumptions are doing there versus the savings delta, which is, quite frankly, just doesn't do anything for me.
It does something for me.
I have the logic for not rebaselining was the guarantee, the 10-year guarantee.
Part of it was the guarantee, but the other thing is like we had to rebase, we did do a rebase on the Russell Street School when we went from all electric to gas. We had to rebase that. But what the program does is it looks at everything that we've been doing over those years. I can certainly print out with our database what we're using on a month-to-month basis. The only thing I can't compute is a big factor is temperature. I mean, temperature impacts our therms greatly. And, and then also the usage. Our usage is increasing. So, I mean, I can certainly print out what we're doing, and you can see by these bills, there's no load creep factored in, there's no degree days or heating days factored into, and those are just straight bills there. And I can certainly do that on a monthly basis.
So, let me make it clear, I'm not asking for any special reports. That's been one of my themes. I don't want anybody doing extra work to do that. I'm just looking at, is there a canned report? Even this summary here, I find, is just, this in a graph form would be just more visually interesting for it. But, just the decrease of 391 to 177, we can see the trend. We can see that it will have bumps along the way, and I don't think anybody has concerns about that. It would be as if it wasn't going down anymore, it would cause us to now raise the question, why not? But your savings graphs would still show our increasing savings. It wouldn't show us that our consumption has actually been increasing up.
The top part of this, what I presented tonight, the top part of that was a graph. So I mean, I can,
I'd be just only looking for something that the software that we have spits out. I don't want anybody creating custom reports to answer my question here.
Maybe we get a 3D model. Speaking of 3D models,
I want to be respectful of the time.
We appreciate that.
To do these inquiries. That's all.
Okay. Don't let me forget I have something too, all right?
Okay, do you want me to write it down?
No, go ahead.
This is just an incredible thing we're doing. I mean, I know we've been saving money because I've seen those reports, but when you put it in terms of 1,000 cars for 1 year off the road, just for our tiny school system, little small school system, that's huge. That's a huge impact. 133,000 tree seedlings grown over 10 years. I can't even visualize that. But this helps me visualize our impact that much more, and it's really something else. And it's not nothing that we're doing here. And I'd love to see us somehow work with the other departments in town. Obviously, we're the biggest, so and this isn't necessarily something that we need to spend a ton of time on, but maybe just say to the other departments, hey, look at what we're doing. You could probably come along with us and enjoy some of these benefits, because it's really something else. We're leading the way as a school system and as a town because of it, and I hope all the other towns and school systems pick up on what we've got going on here.
Thanks, Alex.
Chuck, you had one other thing.
Thanks for reminding me. The only thing I wanted to ask is with the parking lot lights.
Yes.
Are you talking about a retrofit or new fixtures?
New fixtures.
Okay. So it can't be retrofitted, just fixtures are too old? Okay.
Yeah, and what was happening with the retrofits is the LED bulbs that they were putting into the cases that we had was creating a heat problem and causing them to fail.
Okay.
So, and that was one of the problems why we were backing off a couple of years ago when we were looking into them.
Right. I just didn't know if they got better.
I mean,
so LED technology has improved over the last 2 or 3 years to the point where they were having power supply issues, and it wasn't, the LEDs, bulbs themselves last, like 40, 50 times longer, but they were having problems with the power supply, so they seem to have that fixed. The town I live, they just went through the whole town and replaced all the fixtures on all the streetlights as well, so we'd love to see that in town too, but, you know.
Thank you. Great. Good? Hold on.
I might be jumping the gun a bit here, but...
Columbo, just one more thing, sir.
But in terms of the LED lights in the parking lots or some of the other proposals, money-wise, is that something that we are in a position, I guess this is more of a planning discussion.
Capital expenditure.
Yeah, but these are great. And when we go to the selectmen and say, as Daryl was saying earlier, with the STEM, we don't always have a monetary return on investment, which we don't seek to do because education is so much more than that. Here we do. It's plain as day, and ROI of 2.3 years is just...
And then it's all savings.
And then it's all savings.
Yeah, like the frequency drives at the high school, that would be a fairly significant savings at a low cost. And the changing those freezer motors, I would have never guessed that they had a motor that would be that much more efficient.
We have done we have done some things over the years. A number of years ago, if you remember, we swapped out all the gymnasium lights, got rid of those tungsten carbide lights and put T5s in. That had, I don't remember exactly, don't quote me, I think it was a 2.5-year payback.
40-something% saving.
Right, we were able to do that out of the budget and the savings at the time, but budget's gotten tighter, so we're looking for funds, so.
All right, good. You guys have anything to add? Good.
I'm just surprised by, or rather amazed by how much this has managed to do for the town. I mean, all the energy savings and reducing the carbon footprint by well over 5,000 tons. I mean, that's amazing. It's, yeah.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Excellent.
Before we move on, I just want to get our engineers in the back. I think, bring them up. I want you guys to leave with my bunny. Don't make fun of me. Dr. Around the corner there? Yeah, I want a bunny. Treat me right, I might get a bunny. You guys should be the ones getting something.
I guess you guys can choose the colors. You got 3. You can choose. There's only one white one. Only one. You gotta pick your choice. There we go.
No, I know, they really did.
I'll take purple. Purple is cooler.
I'll take a red one. Thank you.
That's amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
Did you put the hole in it like I suggested?
Mr. Branco.
I put a hole in it.
I think Dr. Branco.
Hang up on the necklace?
Don't even remember.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Kirby, did you get that?
Thank you.
See you, Kirby?
I will take one for mine.
I'll get them too. I'll get one.
Guys, thank you very much for coming out tonight. Now go home and do your homework.
I can order it.
I didn't realize it was.
Thank you. Okay, do we want to go to school reports now?
I mean, very creative.
Should we go over to the school reports now, or do you want to go right on to the Mass DOT?
We can go to the school reports. That'd be great.
So, the recent updates for the school, in Shaker Lane, just, or this Tuesday, there will be a book fair night from 4:30 to 7:30, and the following Monday, October 7th, is when school pictures will be taken. At Russell Street, September 30th, there will be a principal's coffee, from 9:30 to 10, and then the following Tuesday on October 2nd, there will be a PTA meeting at 1 p.m. and then on October 6th, a school council meeting at 2:45. The middle school, on Friday, September 12th, over 90 of the school's 6th graders attended the Kids Night Out social. And last Friday, the 6th graders also participated in Team Building Day, which is a series of activities used to create bonds between the students, develop trust, and learn how to work with each other. There was a very well attended back to school night last Monday night by students' parents. On next Friday, October 1st, the 8th grade will travel to Peck-Monadnock during school hours for a field trip. And the next PTA meeting will be October 1st at 8:15 a.m. Just yesterday, Campbell Productions presented their school assembly program, Quest for Respect to All LMS Students, to help with bullying and prevent it. And now, thanks to the generosity of Google and Donors Choose, Littleton Middle School will be receiving 5 iPad minis for the art program and 80 rolls of patterned duct tape for a special 8th grade art program. And that is thanks to Mrs. Upgrove for putting together the grant. Littleton High School also had its own back-to-school night last Thursday night, which was also well attended by parents of students. There are colleges visiting this week, and there are also extracurricular activities up and running to help students achieve what they are missing for community service hours. The National Honor Society is also forming and getting up and running as well.
SAT boot camp coming up.
You get a kickback?
Make sure that gets in there.
When's the sign up for SAT boot camp?
It's, I'll send a reminder over.
It's rolling.
The deadline is like this weekend, like this Friday.
And the boot camp itself is next Saturday, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not this Saturday, next Saturday?
October 4th and 5th, right? So I think it's great. Last minute sign-ups are welcome and encouraged.
Excellent.
We good?
Yes.
Excellent job, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Riley.
Thank you.
All right. Guess we're on to old business now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So first up on old business is there's a letter from the Mass DOT in response to the high school intersection, the Littleton High School intersection, 2A 110. Everybody's got a copy of it. Should I read it into the record, or?
I don't think we need to read it. It is basically, we've been
It's in the packets.
contacting the state and asking for some type of solution to what we feel is an issue at our high school intersection with traffic flow, et cetera. And it's a state road, and to this point in time, we're just not able to move forward in terms of meeting their criteria. So the letter indicates that they want to have a conversation with Mike Fontanella and myself and Steve Mark, so we'll have that conversation. Daryl, at the last joint meeting we had with the Board of Selectmen, had solicited the help of the town also. But we don't want to, speaking on behalf of the school committee, and I want to make sure you're with me on this, but we really don't want to let this go at this point in time. We do feel that there's an issue, and we would like to increase the safety of that section of road.
I'm actually going to impose a little bit of power here. And there's parts of this that I would like to read into the record, because there's a number of people at home that...
Mr. Chairman, you bet.
That don't necessarily...
Sorry.
Double sword.
Well, I just, there are portions of it, and one of the biggest frustrations that I have with this letter from them is paragraph 4. Also, at your suggestion, Mass DOT considered the installation of a school zone with associated school zone signage and 20 miles per hour flashing signs. However, state guidance is clear that school zones apply only to facilities for students below 9th grade. High schools do not qualify for school zone signage, which, okay, so that's the policy, but it's I mean, at some point, common sense has to prevail. We're on a highway with tractor-trailers and vehicles flying by there. And, you know, there's exceptions to every rule. We have a zoning board of appeals in town for people that are aggrieved by a decision or a bylaw. There's got to be some other means through which we can appeal to the state to get some leniency in this area. And we're not even allowed to put something up ourselves because it's a state road, so we can't even put our own signs up without being in violation, which it's pretty frustrating.
You know, I want to go back. I researched this before. I went to not just the I tracked through the regulations. Mass DOT follows the federal highway regulations, and my reading of the federal highway regulations said it was all schools. It did not make an exception at the high school level. So I'm gonna need, I think I'd go back through my notes and see where, I want to just reread that again there, because I take exception with their, based on my memory of what I did for the reading of that here. But again, the reason I brought it up at the selectmen's meeting is they also, as we received this letter, they received their letter for their Safe Streets initiative. And, you know, I just point out the irony of they installed a sidewalk and a crosswalk 25 feet past a speed limit sign, boosting the speed to 40 miles per hour in front of our school. And then we receive a letter that says nothing can be done about it. It's just very frustrating there. And like I said, since they're, Keith Bergman mentioned that they're meeting with Mass DOT on a regular basis for all the other construction projects here, that encourage them to bring this into that conversation for us.
And it's not as if we don't see other high schools throughout the state that have various means of slowing traffic down in front of their schools.
Correct.
And I'm not an expert on whether it's a state road or not, but there are a few that I know are state roads. Again, if it wasn't so concerning, we wouldn't continue to have these conversations. I don't think there's been many occasions where I haven't been turning out of that high school driveway and been sitting there just in amazement in terms of, am I ever going to get out of here? And the traffic flow at 40 miles an hour, I mean, that's a pretty fast speed to be trying to get out of that intersection. So as a superintendent, I certainly support this 110%. I think it's hazardous at times.
Maybe at some point sorry, go ahead, Alex.
And thank you. And it's frustrating how it's so vague, because it's not like we can go and look up in the regulations where it is. They just say state guidance is clear.
Yeah.
Not to us, it's not.
Yeah,
and when
clear as
Daryl, who's one of the bigger policy wonks I know, can't find it. I mean, that's a term that I use.
There's a backhanded compliment.
That's a term of endearment or something. So, from one to another.
Well, should I tell him what you called him earlier?
but it's very, very frustrating that they're hiding behind this. And as Kelly said, we've seen other high schools have this. I believe Neshoba Tech has a slower school zone.
Flashing school zone lights.
And they are also on a state highway.
Correct.
So, what gives here? This is a sort of a different angle here, but do we ever have students, maybe through our CASE program at the high school, who are below grade 9? Because if we had a program there, that might...
Actually, not at this point in time.
I don't think so.
I was just going to say that might be a loophole.
That's a great idea, but I mean, Chuck's right. There's no reason why we should have to play games with the Department of Transportation. I mean, it might be worthwhile to enlist our legislators and see if they can. We've reached out to them already as well.
In their defense, they did come to the meeting. They did meet with us, and this was in December of last year, I want to say. And they got MassDOT to the table, but after that, MassDOT's sort of been hiding.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is the first letter we've gotten from them in quite a while.
Okay. So what's that, Steve? Yeah, we do have a phone call coming up, so we'll certainly convey our...
Well, if the governor becomes Attorney General of the country, maybe we can...
I mean, certainly they're going to change the rule when, it'll be after somebody gets hit by a car, but
Exactly.
At that point, they're going to take it up as an issue. So.
Right, which is what we're trying to avoid. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, get off my soapbox. Superintendent's report.
Moving right along. The MASC conference is coming up, a yearly event. It's great 3 days of conferences, November 5th to 8th this year down at the Cape. And I've already, I say this with a bit of trepidation because you already give so much of your time, but if you can ever swing a day or an afternoon down there, you certainly enjoy your time. There's some great opportunities to meet people and some very well thought out presentations. Every year we send a delegate down there to vote on our behalf. So Daryl has been kind enough to go go down the past couple of years and do that, so I'm going to open it up.
This year I'm not available I have too many conflicts at work this year.
Open it up to the school committee to see if anybody would be able to go down during that afternoon.
Mike Rouse.
It would be the Friday afternoon, I believe, right, Darryl? October 29th. Sorry, no.
November 5th through 8th.
Yeah, November 8th.
Friday the 5th.
I unfortunately don't think I can, but.
I would love to.
Yeah?
Yeah. So, unless Mike wants to fight me for it, or unless you want to fight me for it.
Arm wrestle? I actually know that I'm going to be out of town the week leading up to that, and so if I try to pass a weekend away in the Cape, it's business. Probably not going to go over too well, so I think it's pretty smooth sailing for you, Alex. That's not a fight I'm going to fight. I love you guys, and I'd love to represent Littleton here, but pretty happy representing my family as well.
If I could, I wouldn't mind a motion of support of Alex, if Alex wants to do it, to be our official delegate. We have an alternate. I don't think we've ever had an alternate since we've started this, but if we have one, that should work out. And hey, if somebody else wants to go, that's great. We'll certainly make it happen.
Well, I move to nominate, to send Alex to the MASC conference to represent the Littleton School Committee.
Second.
Second, any discussion? You still in?
Now I'm worried. What am I being set for?
We're setting you up.
Trap?
We're a purple room. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? It's unanimous.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Item 3, the 2014 summary of teacher professional development. We had an increase in professional development last year for a number of reasons, and one of the reasons we've been promoting more of it, and with the change of the teacher contract, offering seminars and conferences rather than just courses. I spoke about before about this. It certainly has made a difference in terms of teachers going to a one-day conference or a two-day seminar and coming back and implementing different things in their classrooms. So it was a very powerful change, and we're certainly reaping benefits from it. We didn't want to present it until we had all the data in, though, and that's why we're doing it in the fall this year. But it's important for the public to know that the things that we document here are things that go beyond the regular routines that we've already established within our school district. So things like our bullying policy and continual training on preventative measures for bullying, etc. So what happens and quite often goes unnoticed is once we establish all of these routines, we don't repeat them anymore. They become part of our culture. So it's important for the public to realize that. These are new initiatives as we move forward. And when you look at the list of courses and seminars, it is quite impressive to look at the diversity of professional development that's going on in our district. And it's also important to remember that the professional development that happens, whether it's district directed or school directed or teacher directed or staff directed, all ties in with our school improvement plans and our district strategic plan. So there's a total funneling effect in terms of how we're moving forward. So we're going down the same road, so to speak. And again, there's a lot of time and commitment for our staff to professionally develop. When they go away, they can't just shut down their classes. They have to continue on. They have to prepare for those classes. And it's harder to prepare for somebody to come in than it is to stay there and do it yourself. But as you can see from the list, we have a tremendous support, and they understand the value and are very passionate about continuing to grow. Having said that, I'm going to turn it over to Jerry Lynn to talk about the list that her department's created for us.
Jerry Lynn, while you're coming up, I just want to make a comment. We reap the benefits of a lot of the professional development these teachers are going through. And Nancy and Julie coming in here tonight, Dr. Hogan, a lot of the stuff that they're doing is stuff that they're getting from these professional development courses. Some of them they're doing on their own time, some of them are professional development courses that we're funding. Like we're reaping the benefits. So that's my little plug.
Well, I thank you for saying that. And I'm very pleased to present this report on the professional development that transpired in the 2013-2014 academic year. As I indicated in opening this report to you, If you go, you look at Vision 2020, the current district strategic plan, Goal 1 within that PD standard calls for the district, and I'm quoting, to offer a comprehensive professional development program for all staff, which includes district programs, site-based programs, college courses, workshops, and conferences. So that is that variety of professional development opportunities that the superintendent talked about and pointed to. In professional development, it's important to say with this standard in the district strategic plan that it's all about connections and making meaningful connections, because the overarching thrust of that PD standard is to offer a variety of professional development opportunities that connect to the district and school-based improvement plans, and furthermore reinforce that nexus between the teacher's individual professional development, individual practice, individual goals, aspirations, classroom strategies, content knowledge, and furthering the district and school-based strategic plans. So throughout, there is those meaningful connections between individual, school-based, classroom-based, district-based, continuous improvement. So the purpose of the list was to reinforce those connections and those patterns. There's a dual focus to this report, and this report emphasizes professional development that goes on during the half-day early release, professional development days, and through the tuition reimbursement program. Now, as the superintendent indicated, there are different circles of influence, of involvement in the early release professional development. It could be a broad circle and include everyone in terms of district-based trainings. And you've heard reports from the administrators, from myself, from the superintendent, that this is an important venue for meeting state mandates. We spent, our district trainings emphasized last year, emphasized the Massachusetts Educator Evaluation implementation of that framework, and we made efforts to tailor that implementation to Littleton's interests, Littleton's needs, Littleton's strengths. Another mandate was the implementation of the Common Core State Standards. We were part of the adoption of the ALICE program, and then that is when that became a district priority, then it was incumbent upon us to provide time for that ALICE training for staff and training in 504. So those were the district trainings that involved all. At this building level, there was a mix of two types of professional development activities. Those that involved all or most of the school-based staff in the implementation or the furthering of activities that were in line with the school-based, the individual SIP. At the high school, you had work on advisory study skills. At Russell Street, you had impressive and extensive work on the development of standards-based report cards. At the middle school was one important example of early release being an important venue for curriculum review and curriculum development. And in fact, you saw those themes, that there were similar activities or similar themes going on, but they were tailored to the needs and the interests of the individual school staff. And the final type of individual professional development were teacher-led modules, where teachers assumed leadership roles in furthering our facilitating a book club, making presentations about practice, sharing and exploration of a topic. And these teacher-led, site-based proposals are very, very powerful means of gathering staff together to hone their craft. Now, the final pages of this report is a long list, two lists, very comprehensive, detailed lists. And as the superintendent emphasized, we wanted to wait until that June 30th cutoff, until all of the tuition reimbursement forms had been processed, because this was the end of the second full year of the change in Littleton's contract. Littleton has had a long tradition of providing professional staff with the opportunity to receive tuition reimbursement up to $2,000 per year for graduate coursework. That has changed for now, it's now 2 full years. And up to $1,000 of that $2,000 can go for a different type of professional development opportunity, and that's the workshop or the seminar setting. So if you look at these two lists, there are a number of patterns and priorities that emerge. It's a wide list. You see a variety in terms of teachers taking a look at extending their content knowledge, from courses in chemistry to courses in algebra to courses in beginning. I mean, it's basic content knowledge. And you also see a number of courses that emphasize the targeting of instructional strategies to different student groups: gifted, special needs, ELL, differentiated learning, so that translation of that content knowledge to the student who is in your classroom, so it's not inert, so it comes alive, so that the students are able to make meaning of that content knowledge once the teacher has received training in it, so it comes alive and is meaningful in the classroom. An important pattern in the conferences that I wanted to point out to you is that I deliberately grouped the conferences that were associated with professional associations at the top of the list. And it is a very, very impressive array of professional organizations. And in new teacher orientation, I always emphasize to staff, to faculty, to go out and participate in conferences that are within your subject area, and teachers, so that you get to know what is current practice, best practice, and what the superintendent calls next practice. That is something that faculty and administrators need in terms of connecting with, the cutting edge of research and practice at a state level or even a national level. We were very fortunate last year that our teachers were able to attend the National Convention for Science Teachers, because it rotates throughout the country, and it was in Boston last year. So, and then I also would have you pay attention to the use of the asterisks. This was deliberate, and it wasn't just a Vex Patina who prepared this list. There is a critical mass develops when you have numerous faculty members volunteer to take the same course or a similar practice. In fact, the middle school focus on open response questions emerged initially out of the Keys to Literacy training that was in writing responses, the open response questions. So we offered on an individual basis the opportunity to attend some of these conferences, and it ended up not only furthering the improvement of practice, but it changed the improvement plans themselves. So those are the themes that I would like to emphasize. If you have any, I would emphasize again also that we are deeply appreciative of the school committee's support of these professional development endeavors and the budget line items that they represent.
Excellent. Thank you, Geraldine. Guys, any questions, comments?
I think it's right there.
What? I'm good. Alex?
This is great.
Must be good. He was
Speechless.
I said 3 words. There are 3 words.
I think it's great because I think one of the things we always get, often from the parents is, what do we use the professional development days for? What's this money used for? And I think this is the kind of feedback that we're looking for here, especially how it ties into the thing there. And I'm wondering if maybe at some point we could, during the year here, if you could find a selected example of one of those teacher-led professional development days to maybe highlight that at one of these meetings here.
We will be doing.
More than happy to.
Because I think that would be, again, just a more concrete for the parents and the other people that don't really see on, what the specific results are.
especially the ones where you have multiple attendees. That's great on a whole bunch of levels. I mean, anytime you attend anything with somebody else, you've got two completely different minds absorbing the exact same information differently. They can bounce off each other.
That's right.
They become the trainers, come back into the district. There's two resources to pull from. It's invaluable.
And Mr. Faraday can attest, and the paperwork that crosses my desk would prove to the teams of teachers, including the grade 1 team, who elected to attend similar workshops, and then that critical mass developed in order to pursue and implement a strategy or a technique within their classroom.
That's great. Hang on a second. You guys have any comments? I'll say I'm excited about the same report next year with the changes that we've implemented. I think you're going to see, this list is very comprehensive and there's great
There's a rich variety, yes.
Great subject matter, great variety, but I'm really interested in seeing how it changes with going into next year with the new contract. So it'll be exciting.
And, as Jerry Lynn pointed out earlier, this wouldn't have been possible without the support of the school committee. 4 years ago, when we started talking about bringing back things that really truly made a difference for student learning, and we've been able to move forward, and you see the result of that support this evening and what we presented last year. So, thank you.
And ultimately, that is the key connection. That connection between professional development and student learning. So that's important.
To bring that word a little bit further, you mentioned connections, and I know you're talking about the curriculum and connecting with the students and connecting back to the district and our goals, but connections on the very simplest terms, the connections that they make with colleagues of theirs from other districts, best demonstrated practices, oh, we've implemented this in our district. And just those connections, there's so much value. So, like I said, I'm excited that it's this diverse, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we come up with next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. Next item on our agenda will be fairly quick. I sent this article to the school committee as well as the admin team, and it was funny when I saw the article. I have to tell you, I was as captivated with the picture as I was the article. I kept thinking to myself, I wouldn't want to be hitting that iceberg in a boat. I mean, it just shows you how huge those things actually are below the water's surface. And they look pretty tame when you see them in person, but you don't realize how big they are underneath the water. So this article, Webb's Depth of Knowledge, I thought was a great way to succinctly present to you some of the things that we do when we're having conversations with staff. And we talk about a curriculum that has a lot of rigor, but in order to have a lot of rigor, you have to know how to foster the right type of environment and ask the right questions. And part of our evaluation process and our discussion process certainly entertains some of the things that you see in this article. And it is very similar to what I talked about actually first day back when the teachers were back and I had a chance to talk to them about things that were important to the district. And I talked about Bloom's taxonomy and the use of verbs or action statements that bring it more to life. And when you're teaching, you should be visualizing Bloom's taxonomy as you're teaching a unit, so that at the end of the day or at the end of the week, you've covered the various hierarchical levels of learning, from simple recognition or repetition to complex application. So when we look at this, there's 4 levels. First level, recall and reproduction. That's a very basic level. That's where we begin with student learning. And then we move up to level 2, skills and concepts. This level, students make some comparisons. They predict, they organize, they summarize, and some estimating. It's that step above where they're starting to process what they've been learning. You find if you're not cognizant of the different levels of learning, a lot of people will stay within that level 1 and level 2 range because they're so concerned about the material that they have to cover. So this extra recognition, that this conversation piece that happens is so important because we have a curriculum to teach. We call it standards, but it's becoming a curriculum. And people are trying to figure out what they need to do by the end of May to make sure that they cover all the material. So it's important to make sure that they also focus on what they're doing on a weekly and a daily basis. So when you hit level 3, this is where we're getting into the real high order thinking, the strategic thinking. And when we look at that, we're looking at multiple responses where they have to justify choices, solving non-routine problems, designing experiments, analyzing characteristics of various events or variables. Level 4 is that top level, the extended thinking component, and that's the most complex cognitive effort that's expended at this level. Designing surveys, interpreting results, multiple data point analyzation, analyzation of multiple texts, extracting themes from texts, writing an original myth in an ancient style. What we're finding as we use nonfiction resources and increase our use of them is we're really teaching students how to take information and process it rather than just summarize it. And those of you that are in college or recent graduates from college realize the importance of that skill, because as soon as you hit that first class, that's what they expect. And then they expect a synthesis from that point on as you continue with your 4-year degree or your graduate degree, and it just keeps getting more complex as you move on. These skills are I don't want to call them 21st century skills because they existed many, many years ago, but it's something that as we become more astute to what our students need to be successful in the globalized economy or society that we have, this is a very important skill. So what I've asked, or what I'm asking my principals to do, is to keep this in their package, or in their minds, preferably, rather than the package. And when they have their conversations with their teachers, when they're doing the walk-arounds, and teachers will have this information, it's a very quick way to engage in terms of where are you in terms of teaching this concept. You know, have you hit level 4 yet, or are you level 2? Or what are your plans? What are your plans for level 4? It's curious. I didn't see it today, but I would imagine you're going to get there. So, what kind of activities are going to be involved before you finish that particular unit? So I thought it was certainly worthy of sharing with you, so that you have a better understanding, or continue to have a better understanding of what we're doing. Having said that, using a software platform for teacher evaluation, for me as a superintendent, creates tremendous efficiencies. It also does for the principals. It's time consuming, but the ability for me to go in and take a look at any teacher's evaluation and take a look at the process that has created toward the creation of a summative evaluation is really powerful for me as a superintendent. It allows me to take a look at where we're at and where we need to go in terms of some of those conversations that are having. And I have to tell you, I'm very impressed with the cognitive level of conversations that are happening between teachers and administrators during the evaluative process. it's important to me, and it was certainly, excuse me, affirmed when I had an opportunity to go in and play around with Teach Point and take a look at a number of evaluations. So, questions?
Awesome. I will say, can't keep me quiet for too long. I know you
Tried to move.
This is exactly the type of learning that we've been trying to do, that sparked the whole MCAS versus PARCC debate, that sparked Common Core versus the original older state standards. These are the types of changes going on in education that people are talking about, that people are doing. And whether, we're on board with those individual changes or not, this is what it boils down to, all of these reforms. And so it's great that we're bringing these directly into the classroom, if the teachers are thinking about it in such a way as this. Because I know that I've always strived to talk about critical thinking, but seeing it broken down like this makes it really tangible, and I think it will probably make it easier for educators to infuse that line of thinking in the classroom. I also want to commend this board because I like to think that we're usually every night we land in 3 or 4 at one point or another, so we should keep trying. I don't know, I try to think long term.
Set goals. Is there any comments? I think, standards are great. Common Core standards get us going in the right directions, but in the right direction. But the standards alone will not bring rigor to the classroom. And I think it's great that you're helping our district by presenting tools that will effectively help them implement the standards within our district. And I took a lot out of this. I appreciate you sharing.
Thank you. And it was a short read.
I like that the most. I actually ended up printing up like 2 other articles that were related to it. So,
the only other agenda item we have under Superintendent's report, Steve had sent you an email in regard to one of the articles that was on the town meeting warrant. And for some reason on that article, they used the subheading Shaker Lane, but yet they clustered a bunch of projects together. And as a result of that, we're in a little bit of a conundrum. There's some money allocated for playgrounds, and because it's subtitled Shaker Lane, it kind of assumes that we're going to do the playground at Shaker Lane. What we really want to do is put that money into the Russell Street playground. So we wanted to bring it to your attention and have a discussion and hear your thoughts on it. That seems to be our biggest priority. We put some money into Shaker Lane last year, and we're just trying to have an equal dispersion of funds as we move forward here. So Steve, I'm going to turn that over to you.
Yeah, so the information is on the piece of paper that I provided. It has the details of the warrant article from the May town meeting. What we'd like to do is with school committee support is approach the PMBC, because technically this falls under PMBC because it's a facility project. We'd like to get PMBC to request to the town that at the Springtown meeting, we put our article on there to reallocate the funds from Shaker Lane to Russell Street School, so we can it'll still be used for playground, it'll just be Russell Street instead of Shaker Lane.
How don't we just eliminate the name of the school and just say to be used for playground equipment?
I can take that up with PMBC and see if they'll support that, but.
That's what I would propose. I think that was, I don't know if it was our intent when we did this or not. I think we did specifically say, Shaker Lane needs some equipment. I think you need paving more than you need anything.
Well,
right,
we got equipment.
That's a whole nother. Right, and there is funds for paving, and we're working on that project as well.
Any reason this can't make the fall town meeting?
I had spoken to the assistant town manager requesting to see if we could make the November town meeting, and she told me we couldn't make it on that November town meeting. That's what she told me. I can push for it, but, and honestly, we're not going to do the work until next spring or summer anyway. We still have to go out and get designs and bids. And so having on November town meeting or May town meeting really won't impact the timing of the project, in my opinion, so I didn't want to push the issue. So
there's no chance that we're going to get this done next spring.
No, we'll.
Unless you consider after the kids are out of school, spring still. Right, because if we get it done with May town meeting, you're gonna have to hustle to get something
Right,
done.
because you have to have-
While the kids are in school, there's gonna be equipment. Right?
Right.
Right, so
So is there any benefit to us expediting this and trying to get this, I mean, do we need to?
we still need to go out, because it's more than 25,000, we need to get quotes. So we don't have to get bids because they've raised the threshold for bids, but we do have to get competitive quotes and go through that process, do the design, and still demo the old unit and install the new unit. So there's a little bit of construction work, so
You see this happening next summer?
I see it happening next summer.
So does, for capital funds, do they have to be expended within the same fiscal
No,
year?
no. They do not.
You can have an extension on those funds. I mean, we don't like to do that, but in this particular case, I think it's probably the best solution.
The intention's gonna be that.
And I think the warrant closes tomorrow, I think it is.
The warrant closes tomorrow, and PMBC doesn't meet until next week.
Okay, there's no reason.
And I have spoken to Joe Clento from PMBC, and he has given some, without speaking for their board, he has seemed to indicate that they will support that, but I don't want to speak for their board either.
So what we need then is a motion. We need, I think you'd feel more comfortable if you had a motion.
Right, supporting, requesting PMBC ask the town to place a warrant article on the Springtown meeting to reallocate the funds.
That were approved in the May.
Well, I think in this case, we do. It's unfortunate we have to go back and redo an article, but I can see why. I mean, we don't want any misinterpretation of the use of funds, but I think that would be necessary because the warrant articles originate from school committee direction.
Paul Avella was the liaison to the PMBC at the time, so since Paul's not here, it would probably be...
That's why it's messed up?
It would probably be prudent to have a motion so it's official.
So before the motion, are we likely to be requesting a Shaker Lane playground improvement for next year's budget, capital budget?
You know, our focus...
I'm just thinking of how much paperwork we're creating if we're going to then turn around and request.
In terms of equipment, we're in pretty good shape right now. We did the new preschool program for younger kids last year. This preschool playground, excuse me. Our main playground is in pretty good shape. Our focus needs to be in the pavement area in the back of the building for next year. So for equipment, we're okay. And we already have the funds allocated for the...
How are we going to put turf out there?
Well, that's not...
You can be part of that conversation.
Let's not talk about turf.
Conversation.
John, strike that.
I heard that's a hot item.
Daryl just gave me a thought. Is there a reason to go through this process now rather than including it in ours when we do our capital budget request? Is there a reason we don't include it then in the spring?
Not a bad idea. I mean, we could...
Might streamline.
Well, we might be able to do both. So in other words, go ahead with the Shaker Lane project and put a Russell Street capital project, playground project on next year. And we could certainly do that because I mean the back playground that you have, Rich, it's okay, but it's certainly when we had it inspected. I mean it's not
Swings.
It's old, and the codes have changed since it was constructed. So. But is there another project that perhaps you and I haven't discussed that would be a higher priority than that?
Water park.
Swimming
Pool. I hate when you put me in the spot.
Yeah, you need some
making
time
an
to
offer,
try
you know?
dig that out, huh?
There's so many.
So if you had $30,000 in your pocket, you could do something in your backyard.
Mike, you know, there's always a need. We could always use additional equipment. I mean, the swings are old. They're the area that area is the area that would need more work than anything else. I think the slide structure, you know, I guess the way I look at it is if it's younger than me, it's okay. But that slide structure, the main playground area, is only about 10 to 11 years old. the swings are older. That would be the one thing I would look at for help, besides the pavement for the turf.
Chopping?
Rock climbing wall?
I mean, I'm sure we could find, I'm sure there's,
Climbing wall would
I'm
be
confident that
nice.
you could find, if the money was awarded, I'm confident you could find something that would be worthy of the money. There's no reason to scrape the bottom right now.
Yeah.
What, so, I guess what I'm wondering is, do you want us to move forward with this tonight and then go to PNBC, or should we wait and hold off until we have our entire spring capital budget request?
Fully exposed.
Because we're going to May town meeting anyway, should we do it all in one?
Yeah, I mean, as we have this conversation tonight, it might make more sense to do that so that we really understand our total direction rather than putting ourselves unintentionally in a situation where we're slowing the process down rather than speeding it up in terms of the bigger picture. So.
And tabling it tonight doesn't mean we can't realize 2 weeks from now.
Right.
Because we've accepted that we can't make the October town meeting deadline, doesn't mean we can't.
Right.
Come back 2 weeks from now and say, well, actually, we want to move forward with it again anyway. So
Maybe that gives you a chance to formally bring it up at the PMBC meeting about where they stand on, you know, what kind of flexibility they think we ought to be trying to use on spending this funds. And then we can vote based on that recommendation as well as where our budget stuff ends up at.
Yeah, that's sage advice. I think that's a great way to go.
I think it's the luck of the rabbit. All right.
Why don't they make us tigers?
Pardon me?
Why don't they make us tigers?
That's next time. Now we open it up to interested citizens. Seeing none. Subcommittee reports. PMBC have anything to report?
Well, in addition to that, we have the turf fields coming along, that conversation coming along, let me clarify. I think everyone but Chuck was at the selectmen meeting, although I think you left before the turf discussion. Go back and watch it. It was a good discussion. Bring popcorn. What I will say is that there wasn't we need more information. We're going to get more information, I think, from the turf group. There's going to be more analysis of what we're doing here, and we're all on the same email thread, so we're getting that information as it comes in. But there's a lot to think about in that discussion.
I mentioned that, I recognize that, I think the chair, maybe perhaps you, Chuck, had seen some of the turf from the turf group, but this is a board, a committee has not been approached by that group to either tell us what their project is or formally solicit our support for it. So I felt kind of blindsided by their presentation the other night, even though, like I said, I know the 3 fields that are in play, but we have, as a board, haven't been really brought into that process. I know a couple of members may have been, but not as a board here. And I think it just would encourage that committee or
schedules
that they come in here and formally solicit our support for the project, because it was a little awkward for me, as looking around for school committee support, and it's like, this is the first time I've seen this presentation.
Fair enough.
There's a process that needs to be followed.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we need to make a decision as a school committee whether you're going to endorse it, and there should be a formalized process for
Right.
that. So you're right, Darrell, that does need to happen.
Agreed. So as the PMBC representative, do you want to wait till they come to us? Do you want to reach out to them?
What do you all want to do?
I think it's incumbent upon them to come to you, frankly, or to
Okay.
come to us to get on the
If they come forward,
agenda.
I think we'll make room and listen.
I think that's
Yeah, and
the right
I'm not sure what
process
the
to follow.
deadline for getting school committee endorsement on a warrant article is, but, they can come to us.
All right. Budget subcommittee. Steve, do you have anything to offer?
No.
Fair enough. Policy subcommittee.
I'm a little behind. I've got to get back into
Work
this
things get in your way.
I know.
Okay, I'll open it up one more time. Does anybody have anything to offer, to add? Guys, no? All right, no need for executive session to the best of my knowledge. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you very much, have a good night, have a good week. Go Tigers.
All right. So somebody, the resident lawyer will have to